So I'll let you kick us off.
Yeah, we're gonna stick with Matt's intro. I like the way he transitioned to playing down tier competition and made that about the Celtics. They in the first round they faced the Miami Heat. They won 4-1. And I would have done a whole like, oh, you can only face who's in front of you, whatever thing, which I do believe, but end of the day, no Jimmy Butler, Miami Heat is kind of rough. As the eighth seeded Miami Heat, so they're not even like that good. There was one game where the Miami Heat set an all-time Heat record. I don't know if it was an NBA record for three-pointers made in a playoff game. That was in game two, which they were able to win. Every other game was an absolute blowout. And Derek White, shout out to him, had like one insane game. I believe that was game four. It was one of the Miami games where Derek White just went absolutely berserk and he had close to 40. So yeah, this really shows the depth of the Celtics team, in my opinion, this series, because this was also when Kristaps Porzingis went out, and then you're like, oh no, maybe the Heat could win an extra game, this and that. But nah, Kristaps Porzingis was out. Al Horford stepped in, didn't matter. They still blew them out by a whole bunch of points. What were some of your takeaways from the series? This one was all blowouts. Literally every single, besides the game that the Heat won, and that was a 10-point win, was all blowouts. So what did you guys think of this one?
I kind of forgot it happened. I can't even lie. The media coverage was like so like they didn't even pretend it happened. And I think I even discussed that like at the time, but I was not tuning in respectfully. Not in these time zones. Shout out to the Heat for getting the game, breaking a record, but it's like don't let us get one game and then get blown out a lot. Obviously, it's a kind of a revenge tour for Celtics after they lost to them last year. But I feel like the Heat have like the biggest like revenge tour, but it's like they're often on the other side of the revenge tour. I think with like the Bucks, the Celtics, that's been like the case over the last 4 years.
Alex, any takeaways with this one, or it was just a wash
Yeah,
because of all
it's kind of similar to Matt. Also didn't really pay that much attention to the series. Obviously, you had um the big Miami Heat game to tie the series with their record-breaking three-pointing in that game. But yeah, if that's what you need to beat the Celtics, then yeah, good luck. Like you said, they had no Jimmy Butler. So Bam Adebayo kind of had to save them, but obviously that's not enough against this super stacked Celtics team who were the best in the regular season this season. So it's not really it wasn't really competition at that point. So I really expected nothing less from the Celtics from that point. Like, yeah, maybe lose a game because of those reasons. Like that can always
that.
happen. So the Celtics did what the Celtics had to do.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And honestly, not much more needs to be said. Shout out Jimmy Butler. In I don't remember which game it was, but he was calling a Heat comeback and he was talking a lot of trash in an interview with Chris Haynes. So shout out to him for that. And then Pat Riley calling him out afterwards. Round two was Boston versus Cleveland. Cleveland was coming off a 7-game series. Boston were locked and loaded, ready, full of rest. And they came out and played really well. Jayson Tatum led the way with 27 points per game and 10 rebounds and 6.5 assists, six and a bit assists. One thing I'll say about this playoff run is Jayson Tatum's three-point shot has been like absolutely just gone. It's been really bad. But his rebounding and passing have been surprisingly good. Like against the Pacers, he had games with 10 assists or high number of assists and almost no turnovers. And in this series as well, he averages 6 assists with 2 turnovers. So shout out to him for like, protecting the rock. And then Jaylen Brown is just scoring insanely efficient as well, not just in the series, but just overall. So that was very impressive to see, to be honest. It kind of surprised me. And Al Horford as well, someone else I just give credit to, who was a plus 11.6 like plus minus per game in this series, which is pretty tough to do. So shout out to Big Al. Um, on Cleveland's side, it was another series with injuries since Jared Allen didn't play at all and Donovan Mitchell only played 3 games. One of them being game two, where he went absolutely insane. The team shot really well. They played a good style of basketball and they were able to take that game. It's a shame that he wasn't able to play games 3 and 4 and 5. because I think the Cavs had at least one more in them for that series. But nonetheless, Celtics did what they do and they took care of business. They shot well from three, and they took care of business defensively. They cleaned glass. They just play really good team defense. Like this is as in terms of versatility and switchability and stuff like that. Like, yeah, the Wolves are kind of like the new show in town, but the Celtics defense is really underrated. It's very good, and this was without Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, so it really just shows that the Celtics were able to translate what they did in the regular season into the playoffs, and like you said, their 3-point shooting that series was incredible. Like there was really nothing that Cleveland could do against it, and considering the fact that they also play such a good style of switching basketball defensively, it's only logical that they were going to win this. But like you said, if Donovan Mitchell would have been more healthy, this probably could have gone a little bit different. Same obviously goes also with Jared Allen, who's been out injured. Like if Jared Allen would have been healthy, do you think the Cavs could have maybe stolen like at least one more game, or do you think they could have gone into 7 games against the Celtics?
I mean, a player makes a difference. A starter makes a difference. You never know. It could be a 20-20 game, but it could be a 2-3 game. Unfortunately, we can't play with hypotheticals because it doesn't happen. But it's definitely an interesting question to phrase.
Yep, yep. I honestly don't have any other takeaways for the Cavs Celtics series. Like this was just the better team won, and the better team was healthier, so the better team won by a lot. Like Darius Garland had a terrible series. Evan Mobley had a good series, so shout out to a couple of Cavs there. But yeah, it's like overall, it's not much else to say, to be honest. Celtics side, they just look good. They look deep. They played consistently. And again, Jayson Tatum showing again that like even when his shot's not going, he's able to have an impact on the court. So big props to him and his team. And that led them to the conference finals, where this was as the memes and stuff were saying, it's like, oh, is this the new closest sweep of all time? And the color matchups, it was just hilarious watching Celtics Pacers. Matt, I know you feel very strongly about the green versus yellow matchup.
It's too bright. Like, come on, man.
It's like I like it because it's different, but it's also it's a lot. It's just a lot going on when you look at the screens and you just see bright green and bright yellow. Speaking of players who played bright, shout out to Jaylen Brown. He averaged just under 30 points, and he had a huge game 4, which was the sweeping game. And I think that's what secured him the Eastern Conference Finals Larry Bird MVP, or whatever it's called. And Jayson Tatum, shout out to him too. He again wasn't as efficient, but he did put up 30 points, 6 assists, and 10 rebounds once again. Like he's putting together a really good playoff run, pretty sneakily, in my opinion. And then Drew Holiday was huge for this one. He shot 42% from 3, 18.5 points. And big Al Horford, he was getting picked on defensively a little bit in this one, but his good shooting from 3 kind of made it worth it to keep him out there, especially with no Porzingis. And yeah, they were able to sweep the Pacers with 3 of the 4 games being extremely close. And everyone's talking about how the Celtics don't have any clutch experiences or clutch wins. Here they are pulling out 3 clutch wins, and then people still finding a way to discredit them. And obviously the other one was a blowout. So what did you guys think of that one?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we called the Pacers an injury merchants. I just think it's funny. I always just reference that. I just think it's interesting when you like look at like minutes played. Like Tatum's only been playing like 40 minutes. Like Jaylen Brown, Derek White, 35, 36. Like it kind of evens out. Like everyone's been like it's very such a deep roster. Obviously, that was kind of the main kind of like negativity towards the Celtics over like the main like playoff runs over the last few years. But when you have Sviatoslav Mikhailuk playing like 3.5 minutes per game in a playoff run, that's like insane. And somehow he's still shooting worse from 3 than Jayson Tatum in like that amount of time. But anyhow, when we talk about to reference win streaks for when we're talking about the Mavs series, obviously these guys are basically I think 12-2 overall. I think they had a 5 game and they're currently on a 7 game win streak, which is just insane. Hang on, let me pull the
Yeah,
let me pull up the
it
last
is
bit.
7 games because they lost game 2 against the Cavs, and then they've won every game since.
Yep,
So going
set.
yeah, they won 7 games in a row.
Yep, 7 games, and then they had a 4 win streak from Cavs game Cavs game 2 to Heat game 2. So basically, their game 2 is where they've lost both their games this series or this playoff run. So expect Dallas Mavericks game 2 win. You heard it here.
Yeah, you could expect it or could not expect it. Maybe they learned their lesson or something. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see. Yeah, especially because the Mavs have won every single game 2 they've played. So you might be onto something with that one, Matt. Time will tell. But nonetheless, another takeaway was injuries again was pretty favorable to the Celtics in this one. Tyrese Halliburton after game 2 had a hamstring issue and he wasn't able to play the rest of the series. Nonetheless, though, Siakam stepped up. He played pretty good. Andrew Nemhard was amazing. This was his coming out party. He's looking like he might be the new Jalen Brunson or some type of version of Jalen Brunson. He put up 21 points and 8 assists in this series on 50, 47, and 89 shooting splits, and 47's from deep. So very impressive by him, nonetheless, my fellow Canadian. And yeah, do you guys have any other takeaways from this one? Do you think the clutch wins in this series are gonna help the Celtics when they face a tough battle against the Mavs and it's going down the stretch? Do you think these experiences are gonna help them? Or do you think it's like, oh, this team sucks, who cares, whatever, like their opponents? Which is kind of what I'm seeing the media do, which is annoying to me because, in my opinion, a clutch game is a clutch game. So you still have to like win that out and get those stops and hit those shots.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with that. Like, especially what the Celtics did in game 1 is nothing close, but like clutchness in person, right? Like they force overtime and then get it done there after being down by as much as, I don't know, 17 it was, I think. So it's good to see that the Celtics are able to come back. But no, obviously the Mavericks are a different team of style of basketball, right? Because while the Pacers play highly efficient offense, their defense is not good. And you can say the same thing about the Dallas Mavericks. They are arguably uh, the top 2 or top 3 defense throughout this playoff run right now. Arguably only Boston and Minnesota had better defenses. And then you combine that with the fact that they have much better offensive weapons as their first 2 options compared to what everyone else had in the Eastern Conference against the Celtics. It's I don't know, like you can't really say is that if that's going to hold on true, because yeah, it's like as if you'd compare apples to pears, basically. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't really make that much sense.
yeah, I kind of see what you mean, but nonetheless, despite all the odds, which all the odds were in their favor, the Celtics made it to the finals, and they're gonna be facing the Dallas Mavericks. So we'll see how that goes. Once that happens, we'll be sure to let everyone know what happened. And yeah, we're gonna react to everything.